Hello, my friends. It's a Toadman once again. Today, I want to talk to you about why do big companies like Marvel, DC, and all these other companies put out stinkers? Sony. Why do why do they make movies or projects or comic books or action figures that are look like they're going to fail? This goes with anything that's in collectibles. This could be any hobby. It could be trading cards. It could be movies. It could be anything you could think of. Now, off the bat, you think, how could these fail? Like, how could all these people and all this money go into these projects and they fail? And I'll give you an example. Like Snow White recently, they came out with this movie. It was pushed by Disney heavily, and it failed miserably in the box office. And it was panned by a lot of the fans. Now, they didn't do that on purpose. Contrary to popular belief, they did not make that movie purposely to fail. That failed for a litany of reasons. But they, at the end of the day, push that movie out because they have higher goals for that. They have merchandise. You're going to see a lot of those, a lot of those characters hit the shelves. You're going to see a lot of those shirts and T-shirts, and you're going to see books and all kinds of stuff of Snow White for the next couple of months because they're pushing this big engine that they want to make happen. Right? That's just a catalyst. The whole idea of pushing out this movie that as they pushed it out, they saw we're going to have to cut some marketing because it's not working. It's not hitting. They must have did some screenings with audiences and saw it's not really hitting what they thought they wanted to do. Marvel does this all the time. DC does it all the time. Where they might push out a character, or they might need something. They might need a toy that to come out on Christmas. They might need something, but they need the catalyst. They need to push that. They might have a deal with a company to put out a product that's based on this character. And so they push the character that wasn't supposed to be in the movie to begin with. I've dealt with this. I've been in the entertainment business industry for 20 years. I got out of it over COVID, but I've dealt with it. It's not necessarily purposely ruined. It could just be the fact that you have all these people, this big ensemble full of people that are involved in making this movie or this product or whatever you want to say. And sometimes people, despite all their best efforts, are miscast. Sometimes you put somebody in a role and you think, man, that's really going to pop off, and they can't hold it up. They can't be the main character. Sometimes you get the studio at the last minute says, hey, we need to really push this character on here real quick. And then you have to push that character, despite that it's not a main character. And you have to shoehorn these characters in because the person with the money is telling you it has to happen. I've seen that so many times where somebody who comes in and they have somebody, it's either their friend or they have some some reason to make this person important for the role, and there's not even a role for them. They're miscast in the role. They're not a main character, but now they're suddenly a main character. They change the story completely just to revolve around this character, and it doesn't make sense, and it hurts not only the project but future projects. It hurts you as a director because you can't make something out of nothing. And sometimes it's just not the right audience, right? You could put something out, the same movie out on a different time, and it's just a different audience and they love it. How many movies do we love as kids and our parents hate? I tell you as a parent now, there's so many movies that my daughter watches that I think are awful, but she loves them. My daughter doesn't have an Instagram. She doesn't have a Rotten Tomatoes. She doesn't have access to internet to vote. She doesn't have a say in these. So a lot of these people who are voting are grown adults voting on things and putting out their opinions on things that are not even for them, and they're not the audience for it. It's just so maybe so. For example, she loved the Little Mermaid. I love the Little Mermaid. I loved the Little Mermaid when I was a kid, and then when I watched the new Little Mermaid, I know a lot of adults were so mad at it because the person was a different color. Wow, you think that they made a movie about someone in the Caribbean Sea and made them look like they're from the Caribbean? Wow, man, I should be mad at that. No, I loved it because, well, guess what? I'm from the Caribbean as well. My people are from Puerto Rico. Um, it just made a lot of sense to me why that character was that way, and the movie was really good. Like I enjoyed it. I enjoyed the songs. I enjoyed a lot of that. It's not for adults. It's a kids movie. I came in with that thought process that it's a kids movie. My daughter liked it. She never saw the original Little Mermaid. She went back and saw the Little Mermaid and loved it. And guess what? Sales from the old Little Mermaid went up. So even if the movie didn't do well, I can't tell you how well it did in the box office, but it still made more money in the back end because she bought the doll, she bought the T-shirt, she went back and watched the old movie, which brings in streaming revenue. It all has a reason to happen, right? Even if people hated Snow White, they still went back and watched the old Snow White, which I didn't like the old Snow White. I'm not going to watch the new one. It's not for me, and my daughter's not interested in it. So I don't have a say in it, whether it's good or bad. But so many people will say that it's a failure, but they're not seeing that maybe there's going to be a bigger scheme of things. There's another reason why this was made. Maybe they won't recoup it. Maybe they lost money and they'll decide not to do another live action with this because looks like Mufasa also failed miserably as well. And that shouldn't be something that just pump out just because, hey, we're doing live action now. So there's a lot of reasons why things fail, but I'm telling you, it's not on purpose. Like nobody wants to spend all this money in marketing, spending all this money on actresses and actors and cast and props and makeup and all this stuff for a project to fail. There's a lot of people's careers depend on this stuff. They could be acting their butts off, thinking that they're doing an incredible job and not get the character. I'll give you an example. Look at Cyborg from the Justice League movies. He didn't understand that character. He thought that they were being um, uh, discriminatory towards him by making him say different things that the character would say, but him as a person felt like he was being taken advantage of as a person of color and being mocked or being made stereotypical. I understand that. I understand where he's coming from, but that's what that character that he's portraying is like. So taking that away is taking away the fan service for the audience that are coming in, expecting him to say things like "booyah" because that's his catchphrase. That's like Superman not having a long speech, or Batman saying "I'm Batman," or it's a such a strong part of that character. You can if you change the character too far, it's not the character anymore. And I know there's a lot of legacy characters out there that like there's how many different Flashes, how many different Robins, right? And people get upset because they changed the character a little bit on there. But they're supposed to be legacy characters. It's supposed to be changed every couple of years. That's part of their character. But if you took Robin and stripped everything away from Robin that made Robin and gave that design a whole new redo and changed the origin and didn't have him be partnered with Batman, it's not Robin anymore, right? So there is a threshold. There's a certain part that you can only go so far, but there's always somebody with money behind it that's saying, push it further, push it further. I like it. I would like you to do this instead because it's my personal agenda or my feelings about it. So people with money at the top are really the ones that change this, and that can make or break a product. I don't know if you're old enough to remember this, but I am. These video games and movies and stuff like that would come out. A movie would come out, and a whole toy line would start. And a cartoon would start after it. A video game would be made about it. Look at like 007, 007, and then the video game came out, and there was a whole series of the 007 video games that came out of it. So they put out 007 movies. I've never seen a 007 movie, but I played every single one of those games because they were all great. So there's not necessarily because they're putting out a movie and they lost money on the box office doesn't mean that they didn't make it up in the back end somewhere else. They're always pushing out another product, another toy, another idea, a sequel that goes along with why that product needs to be pushed out. Sony put out all these movies and none of them were really worth putting out, but they made toys. They held on to the IP. Those things were worth that to them, that they can chase the comic book, the whatever subsidized income that they got from these characters by continually putting them out there in movies. I loved Craven, but Craven, that is well, going back to the Robin portion I had talked about a couple minutes ago. Craven was not anything like Craven the Hunter in Spider-Man. They changed everything about that character other than its likeness. I still liked it. I thought it was the best one of all the Sony movies, and I watched all those crap. Every single one of those crappy movies I watched. Craven is the cream of the crap. So, there are reasons why they put them out, even though they know, like, man, we're gonna we're gonna lose hand over fist. But there's other reasons why they came out. And it could be they're trying to train an audience to like a certain thing. or they're pushing out a different agenda for a particular character or um, processes of how the story is going to be told or anything. There's so many reasons. But don't ever think that these people are not they're not succeeding because they don't want to succeed. That they're putting out bad efforts because they want to fail. No actor wants to be known as a bad actor or have a bad performance. No writer, director, producer, none of them want to be associated with a bad product. But everyone has to make money, right? Some people just have to do it because they need to put a roof over their heads. Sometimes they have to say yes to people who have no idea what they're talking about, just so that they can continue to do a project that they love to do, or work that they love to do, or whatever they feel meet a goal in their lives. They do it for very specific reasons. And it just takes a whole crew of working together in perfect conditions and perfect symmetry for something great to really come out. That's why all these movies are not hitting the way that they used to. This is why a lot of these movies are failing. A lot of these products are failing. Well, again, whether it's a cartoon or a movie or whatever, it's not because of lack of effort. It's lack of symmetry. It's the wrong conditions. It's the wrong thing at the wrong time. So that's just my 2 cents. Again, I've spent a lot of time in this industry. I'm glad to be out of it. I don't have much to show for it, honestly, but I do have the memories and the fun that I've had, um, the camaraderie that I've had with the people I worked with. All right, y'all, that's my 2 cents. I'm sorry if I rambled, and thank you for watching. Be good to each other, and peace.